Yeah. Morning, Pastor. Morning. Man, you guys working hard. Yeah. Good job. Good job. Good morning, Isabel.
Good morning. So maybe up to here is good and we will stop. It's good.
Just more days?
No, we were there for like 3 days. Yeah.
Three, two, one. Good morning.
I thought it was the energy drink.
But I was saying we should.
I feel like two of us are playing.
Pastor?
All right. You guys are so quiet, so I just thought let's go ahead and get started, right? Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shelly Cha. I have the honor to be your MC for today, and it's truly a blessing, really, to be able to MC or such an event, because this is really the first of its kind for our community. And especially with all the collaboration that we've had so far, if all of you have gone through the other side, you see all of our support, all the tables from a variety of organizations. So we're excited that everything is hosted here at Freedom Community Church, one place where all of us can come together. So welcome, officially welcome to our Breaking Generational Cycles. This event here is made possible from the collaboration of so many folks, so many people, so many organizations. First and foremost, I do want to mention thank you to Freedom Community Church. This is the church here they have graciously opened the door to allow us to host the event here. And definitely thank you to Dr. Song Lee, who is our part of the wellness program here at the Freedom Community Church. And so, in addition to that, I want to thank Fresno State's Kerman School of Education, who is here today as well. Fresno State's Southeast Asian Student Success Center. They have been working together with all of us to make this event possible. I do also want to acknowledge Starbucks. Did you guys get the Starbucks coffee in the back? Yeah, so those are graciously donated to us from Starbucks. We will also be having lunch from Hualan Restaurant, which is some sandwiches, and we do want to thank them for their sponsorship as well. And then last but not least, I do want to thank the Fresno State Student Cover for their donations of some of the fruits that we're enjoying this morning for breakfast. So as you can see, there are so many people that came together to help make this event possible. And we do want to thank each and every one of them, all the organizations, as well as all the individuals behind those organizations for their time and effort. So I did mention just a couple of housekeeping. I mentioned the restrooms already on the back. On the far left, on my left here, we have the individual stalls on the other side of the building. Feel free to excuse yourself as necessary. Everyone here should have a name tag, right? So on your name tag, there are two numbers, number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is your first breakout session in the afternoon. So for the morning, we're going to be in this room, which we call our service room. So all of us will be here together. In the afternoon, we will be in the breakout session. So mainly all of those rooms are located on this other building here. So you will be able to know by the name listed after number 1. That's your breakout session room, and there are labels on the door or next to the door, so just look for whichever room that you'll be going to. And she has been the coordinator or the head of Breaking Generational Cycles, this event here today. She is also an associate dean of the Kerman School of Education and Human Development here at Fresno State. So let's welcome Dr. Song Ling. Let's give her a hand.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. It's great that you guys could come join us on your Saturday morning. I know some of you may have dragged yourself out like my kids, so we appreciate you. So what I'm seeing is you guys are breaking that generational cycle of being late and not using long time. So I'm happy for you. Before we continue, I wanted to acknowledge a few folks in the room with us. Shelley has shared the agencies and entities that were supportive, but I wanted to kind of acknowledge some of the key folks. From Freedom Community Church, Pastor to her, can you kind of stand up so they can see who you are? Pastor here. We also have Pastor Rafael, Pastor Cal, and Pastor Juan. Can you guys all stand so they can kind of see you? So those are our pastors here. Even though we're not doing spiritual health today, if you are a Christian and you wanted to meet with the pastors, they told me they can be available to meet with you if needed. So thank you so much, pastors. They are the ones that have come to me and said we need to support our Hmong community. We know that our Hmong community are going through adjustments, different normal life issues, and we want to be the first Hmong church to develop something to support the Hmong community. And so after, Pastor Chu was like, can we do something? And I said, yeah, let's do this. And so they have been very gracious and supportive, and all the endeavors all the ideas that I throw out, I think pretty soon they're going to be like, stop, because we're exhausted. But I want to thank Freedom Community Church. All the setup are the volunteers from the church. And so I want to thank the church, the men, the women, the young adults, and the children. Dr. Laporta, I don't think he's here yet, but he's the Dean of the Kerman School of Education. He is going to be here today, and I will introduce him to you guys. But I want to say a special thank you to Andrew. Andrew, are you in here? Andrew is the camera in the back. So Andrew is our communications person in Kerman School. So you see that little booklet that you guys have? Yes, Andrew helped me put those together. He's also the one that sent the last email out to our Fresno State students, and so Andrew is kind of like my left hand. And so thank you so much, Andrew. I want to acknowledge also Dr. Shimal Harsechu. She is here. You will hear from her. She is the director of the Southeast Asian Student Success program at Fresno State, and she also has a vendor. So for those of you who are interested in Fresno State, we have a couple of tables there and Dr. Herb there as well. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Bao Johari. Dr. Bao, please stand up so they know who you are. So in case you don't know, she is, although her last name doesn't show, but she is Hmong. And she is one of our big person at Fresno State. She's a Vice President of Technology and Chief Information Officer, but she also has the President of Fresno State's ear, and she's working right alongside him. And so I want to acknowledge her presence here as well. And to all the speakers and the vendors and the participants, thank you for being here with us today. So before we get to our topics, I want to just have us collectively look at what breaking generational cycles mean, because then you guys will know what these speakers are talking about. After my keynote speakers speak, we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to go to your sessions. And I hope that you guys will stay with us till the very end, because then at 3:30 we're going to come back again. So how you're going to see is collectively we're going to look at things, and then you're going to go individually to look at your stuff in the individual sessions, and then collectively we're going to come back again to look at your learnings. So talking about breaking generational cycles, it is an individual and a collective effort, and so that's why we're going to kind of structure it that way. So generational cycles, what does that mean? Those are the behaviors, the perceptions, the beliefs, and social norms that have passed down from one generation to the next. So these cycles may have been passed down to you, to us explicitly with words, implicitly with emotions and social norms, or biologically as a result of traumas. So your parents, if they had trauma, their brain, their body, the way that it's structured, kind of changed, and it will genetically get passed on to you as well. And I'm sure you may have seen how these generational cycles have shown in you and your families. For example, you might see how you or your siblings act or think very similarly to your elders. And I'm sure some of you may have told yourself, I would never be like my parents, only to find yourself very similar to your parents when you discipline your children, how you view the world, how you perceive yourself and others. So to break these generational cycles, I want us to think collectively as a Hmong community. Our Hmong community has come from very traumatic paths, and so those traumatic events have impacted our elders and have impacted us. So in terms of, well, what do you mean? If your elders have been traumatized, it may have impacted how they react to the world. And how they react in the world will model to you the appropriate way to react, which is not appropriate, but you may see it as appropriate. So some of those norms and those cycles we're going to look at. But I want to share a few things. The participants, when they register, I had to ask them what cycles, communication, behaviors, any cycles you want to break. And the things that I see are like the gender themes. Here's a quote for someone: parents enabling their sons, parents passing work from their sons to their daughters. So it's just that gender cycle that we see being passed. Control issue, admitting fault, having the I am right, or because I say so mentality. Other ineffective, another theme that I found from your survey is ineffective coping, gaming to cope, ghosting, angry, lack of sleep, feeling worthless, feeling unworthy, and the way that they cope with stress needs to be changed. The biggest one that everyone kind of talked about is communication issues. That our patterns of communication, the way that we communicate in our community and our families, need to look at to improve. Let me give you some examples from you guys. Is lack of communication, lack of boundaries, verbal shaming, victim blaming, telling others to be patient and just endure the treatment of behavior, not being emotionally available, splitting when in disagreements, assuming with other thoughts, not being able to have a mature, productive communication. So as you're hearing these, you're starting to realize, oh, some of those are very unique, but some of those are very common among other communities, and that's true. Other themes: unhealthy emotional regulation, negativity, always talking about the misfortunes and focusing on the negatives, the lack of boundaries, relationship and social issues, social needs. Those are the things that you guys are telling us we need to work on to break. I also asked 3 emotions that you guys have every single day. And let me give you 54% of the participants said they're tired. So many of you are very tired. So I'm glad you're here today. The next highest is anxious. So a lot of people are anxious, however, they're also hopeful and happy. So those are the top that I saw. But the tired one, we may need to look at that. So in order to break generational cycles, we need to do this collectively. So I want to give you an example. Let's say that you are so good and you made some positive impact and you created a wonderful human being. And let's say that I didn't do a good job. Well, your daughter marries my son. I have ineffective emotional regulation, behaviors. I pass it on to my son. Your wonderful human being marries my son. And guess what? There's going to be conflict. And the children that are being born from that couple gets to be learned from the ineffective coping styles. So I want us to think about this as collectively, how can we work as a Hmong community to deal with that? So awareness is the key to breaking these cycles. So in your handbook, in your little booklet, if you don't have one, can somebody hold it up so you can see? If you didn't get a chance to pick up a handbook, please do so in the front table during check-in. I gave us a simple little tip in there, and really the cue, noticing the cue, your routine, and your reward. So if you, after this event and you forget, it's in there. So awareness, you're gonna get that from our keynotes today. Routines, the things that you tend to do, your reactions, and then your rewards, what you tend to get from those reactions. So as you listen to the speakers today, you may gain an awareness with different family patterns and cycles. I want you to today, from the awareness, to not blame our ancestors, but to understand our ancestors. And I want you not to blame yourself, but to understand yourself so that you can continue with effective coping mechanisms. So before I go to my keynote speakers, I do want to recognize the Dean of the Crum School of Education. I see him in the back. So Dr. Laporte, can you stand up so that people can see you? So the Crum School of Education is actually one of the biggest supporters with the fundings that are allowing us to do this event. And Dr. Laporte is the one that says, okay, you can use the money. So I am his second hand. He's my boss. So treat me nice so that he think I'm good. I thank you for coming today, Dr. Laporte. So without further ado, I do want to turn us to our first speaker. He is a family medicine resident at Valley Health Team. He is a graduate of Duncan High School, Fresno State, and Wells University School of Education. So I want us to welcome Dr. Singh Saiksham for our first keynote speaker.
Okay, Yozong. All right, this event or some event that is probably one of the most difficult for me because but hopefully my Monglish will make it through. And I only have 15 minutes to be up here, so if I'm over time, please let me know because I don't keep track of time, So I'm asked to talk about the physical aspect of our, our health, and I'm trying to take it back to where our parents are originally from, right? And so I'm trying to kind of compare and contrast, the life that they have versus the current one that we have today. It's quite a broad topic, and I'm not going to be able to go and do a lot of details, but I want to glance over it and give you some ideas and just some things to, reflect upon. So, and so I'm going to compare and contrast these things that I listed up here, the environment, the physical activity, diet, substance use, social connection, stress management, and appropriate use of medication. And then I'll talk briefly about prevention medicine at the end. And so, like I said, these topics are a huge topic by itself. So I'm going to try to just glance over it and hopefully we can just have a little discussion about each of them. Now, we can't really talk about generation cycles of health unless we understand where we come from. So, Hmong, as we know, originated from South China. From there, because of persecution and war, we immigrated down to the Southeast Asian countries. And if you are one of the Hmong in the Central Valley here, chance is you are a group of Hmong people that are from Laos, right? Like your parents are from Laos who went through the Vietnam War. And, we're involved in it, and that's how we gained asylum to come to the United States. So that's kind of like a brief history of how we ended up here, right? And traditional health literacy in a Hmong community is not, anything compared to what we have currently, because in the country there is no formal education, right? And there is no place to learn about the human body, anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, all of that. And so in the Hmong community, traditionally, we believe that illness is caused by spiritual encounters, right? And so when someone is ill, that's why we have a shaman. That's why we use a shaman or a ritual healer to help heal the body. We also have ritual healer, whispering magic, and then herbal medicine. See, so 因為一條老人已經包咗就春咗聽就已經是洗衣住當到點落咗但落聽就也定俾你包咗你就聽。And other things that we use is like cupping, right? Coining. How many of you have been through where they put a see? So we all know that there is things that we have used as treatment modalities for us in the past, right? And treatment that we use to cure our physical health. And so with that in mind, we have to understand why our parents and our older generation, why they make the decisions that they do today as far as healthcare. And so later on, I'll bridge it to the prevention medicine at the end and talk more about that. But I do want to compare and contrast because we're talking about different generations, right? Like our parents' generation and us here in America. So when we look at the environment setting, right? Our parents, they grew up in a village surrounded by nature. And there is rarely any cars that come through, right? But when we look at our generation now, we are surrounded by skyscrapers, city, lights, streets, right? And when you look at the studies, many studies show that people who are surrounded by nature or greenery space has a happier life, healthier. Blood pressure is much lower, right? And so there's all these type of research that shows that there's an association with nature, right? And in the urban city, we're known to be the best place in the world, but there's still a lot of diabetes, hypertension, anxiety, a lot of chronic disease, right? And back then, our parents, they didn't know that all of these conditions because they're in the environment that is probably supporting their physical health. And then physical activities, right? Back then, they walk or either bike to everywhere that they go. And work is usually consists of physical and labor work. So basically, they're working out their body throughout the day. And here, in our generation, we ride a car or fly everywhere that we need to go. And most of our work consists of long hours of sitting down, right? And so when we think about this, well, we think about the difference of the physical activities that we get for our body. And that's why there's gym, there's exercise program, right? There is nothing like that back then in our parents' time. Nowadays, they have to create something so people can go there and get exercise, right? So when you think about this, it's interesting. Now, as far as diet, okay, so our generation, we are incorporating the standard American diet, right? Stands for SAD, which is not so good, right? So that includes a lot of like high calories food, low nutrition values. And we are incorporating a lot of that into our diet currently. Then we also have our generation now that are consuming the American diet, right? So we have different types of stuff that we eat, like stuff. Some of the stuff that you see up there, right? And we're Hmong. We incorporate so many other other cultures, dishes like Thai and blah. So we have the means to do it, right? But in our parents' time, they do not have the means to do all of this. So they're consuming a lot of whole and fresh food. And when we look at the difference of the diet, they are actually eating much more healthy than we do. And so if you look at the research into diet, right now there's a lot of interest into plant-based diet because those has been shown to be the most healthiest and help people reduce or prevent chronic condition and also help them live longer lives. And so we also are challenged with portion in this generation, right? We think that the portion that is served to us is the portion that we need to eat. And so when you look at the example here, that's what you're served, but that's the portion that you should eat. And I show one of the photos of me there because recently we went to LA and we went to eat at a restaurant. I look at the menu and I was like, wow, why is it so expensive? More than Fresno, right? And so when the food is served, the plates are bigger than my torso. That is crazy, right? My wife and I can finish, my wife and I only finished about 10% of what was served. And this is crazy. Right? And so, we are facing a challenging time as far as, the knowledge to be able to help ourselves, like as far as diet, right? So you have to understand this. And there has been short-term studies that show people, when people are given more portion, they tend to eat more, right? That's why I tell my wife, we're not going to a buffet. My kids like to go to a buffet and say, no. Let's go eat somewhere where we can enjoy the food appropriately. All right. And so as far as substance use, so so we use it for occasion, like special occasion, and we usually with a purpose. Back in the days, but now with this generation, we have normalized the substance use so much so that it is just normal. Yeah, you can go to anybody's house, and it just becomes something that people just throw it out there, and everyone just do it. Not everyone. I know some of you don't do that, but it's just being something that so is so prominent, and so it is a substance that cause a lot of harm to the body and also causes harm to other people, like such as drug driving and causing accident, right? So we know, I'm sure you know somebody who got into trouble because of that, right? The other things are cigarette. There's not a lot of access to cigarette back in the homeland, and so it's not very prominent. But nowadays, it's gaining like popularity where people will try it for fun with their friends, and then they become addicted to it. And smoking and secondhand smoke causes about 80 to 90% of lung cancers in the United States every year. The next thing that, in substance use is recreational drugs, right? Back in the days, our parents, they farm, some of our parents, they do opium farm. Largely is because it's to make a living, right? And also they were able to use that as medicine or medicinal support. But some that has fallen into the trap of addiction, their life got turned upside down. Nowadays, in this cycle of generation, especially in America here, there's so many recreational drugs that is readily available in the street. And it's so easy to obtain that it causes so much trouble in the United States. And opiate overdose alone causes about more than 65,000 deaths every year in the United States. And when we look at the numbers, in Vietnam War, there's about like 60,000 of the United States soldiers that died from the war, right? Died from fighting the war. So we look at the number of opioid overdose every year. United States is actually fighting a Vietnam War every year, right? And so this is something that we have to be aware of and avoid. As far as social connection, back in Laos, Hmong, we like to congregate together. We like to stay in a social structure. We have clan, sub-clan, ceremonial household, extended family, and nuclear family. So all of these are ways, like interrelationship, that tie us together and keep us close together. And so the son and the wife supposed to stay with the parents and help the parents until they grow old, right? And the parents, in return, takes care of their kids. It's a reciprocal relationship, right? But now in our cycle of generation, and with our acculturation to the United States, the Hmong has become less cohesive. And parents and kids has become more independent. So they tend to go live by themselves, right, in different households. And so this is it has caused a decrease in the social support for the elderly population or our parents, right? And this brought up to the dilemmas of nursing home, right? Có một cho con nhiều có chỉ một nhóm tổ nursing home là vậy. Yêu có cho để cứ đi sai sầu cỏ là để có chỉ lúc có nhiều có chỉ có cho một nhóm tổ là vậy. Có yêu cho nó có nhỏ là có nên nung quá nữa chúng mình từ rồi sai rồi tù thế này, right? And so we are in this conflict. Currently, there's many of us struggling with this. And when you talk about this, there's so many point of view that come into play. As far as stress management, Hmong people, we like to be more humble, and we don't usually express our feelings to others. But when we do, we like to de-stress in person. We used to, anyways, right? We like to de-stress in person, and we like to talk with someone who we are close with, like a close friend, family members, even a shaman too, right? Or a pastor. And as big dog, or us that are still traditional, We do hupli, kite. All of those are for emotional support too, psychologically, right? And those are us that but in this cycle of generation, we do have those that are prefer to do it virtually, right? Through texting, through social media. How many of you seen people put their life on blast on social media, right? That is a way for them to de-stress, but then it is a very unhealthy way to do it. We still have friends, family, church, and then we have this new idea in this generation of therapists. I'm sure there are therapists in here, right? So we have, professional therapists that help us go through these hard times. And then, other stuff that we can do on ourselves, like breathing technique, yoga, and all of that. And then I want to bring your attention to the inappropriate use of medicine. So back in the country, there wasn't much medicine available, right? Like as far as like Western medicine. So it's more like herbal medicine. So yeah, you use whatever you get and whatever you have. But now, even now in the United States, some of us are still facing this challenge of inappropriate use of medication. Particularly antibiotic, because people use it without an appropriate diagnosis. Some people call me or relative call me and say, "Hey, right?" It's hard for me to just give it, right? Because it's not something where it's harmless. If you give it inappropriately in the long term, it can cause other harmful stuff like antibiotic resistance, right? And so, also using the wrong antibiotic. How many of you know of penicillin? Right? Penicillin is rarely used in the medical field now because we have so many other good drugs, and penicillin doesn't really do anything at all now except for treating syphilis. But then we still have people using that because they buy easily over the counter or on the street, not over the counter but on the street. And then we still have herbal medicines that we use. And I know that natural doesn't mean safe, and safe doesn't have to be natural. And so I want to bring your attention to this last slide, which is probably one of the most important slides too. Now that we know how our parents, lived their life, and what they went through, how they practiced medicine and using their knowledge, we can appreciate why not a lot of them believe in prevention medicine. It's because we have our parents have this notion that if you don't have a symptom, then you don't have a disease. And this is a misconception, right? Cancer don't usually start with a symptom, but when you have a symptom, it's usually late. And I've seen so many cases of this, and that's why I'm very passionate about prevention medicine. Because it's probably one of the best things you can do to prolong your life. So in the Hmong community, we still suffer from cervical cancer, colon cancer, hepatitis B that turns into liver cancer. We have hypertension and diabetes. The other day, I have somebody that I know, he's really young, was hospitalized and found to have heart failure. And what it comes down to was that he was struggling with hypertension for a period of time. Very young guy. And it's sad because heart failure means he's going to have to take medication for the rest of his life, change so many things that he's been doing, and probably go to the hospital frequently. And so something simple like measuring your blood pressure, go check up every year. If you check out good, that's better. If you have something and if it's treatable, treat it. That's pretty simple, right? But not everybody can do that. And so with these in mind, I want to reemphasize that, to understand the practices of our older generation, you must understand where they are coming from. Because and so there are also, but when you look at our older generation, they also have good habits that we can incorporate into our lives that can probably help us live a longer, healthier lives. So I leave it to you to pick and choose which you want to incorporate into your life. Thank you.
25 generation or the second generation, right? But we have parents and we have elders, our parents, our grandparents, and we can connect and understand where they came from. I just think back about, I was looking at your photos of food and I thought about Kai Vona up at the top. And then I thought about my kids, and for them it was like McDonald's. Kai Vona to McDonald's. That's such a big difference. So thank you for giving us a great summary of a contrast of where we've been and where we are now and where we need to go. And I think it goes back to the reason as to why the title or the name of our event today is Breaking Generational Cycles, because that's what we have to do. We have to break these generational cycles, because obviously some of these habits or things that we've done for years and years cannot continue. But there are things like our parents is working, being able to walk to places. Those physical activities should continue, and I'm guilty of that because I look at my watch every morning and I'm like, how many steps have I?
Thank you. We have to apologize that we've gone sick, so this is not our normal voice, but excuse our voice for today. I'm Melanie Vang, so we're going to just touch base a little bit about the background and history of mental health a little bit, and then I will hand it over to Jane and she can finish it off here in the US for you all, okay? So before we start, can we have some of the younger generations tell us what you know about mental health? Has that ever struck your head or, ever wondered about what mental health is?
I think we see it more, but we don't recognize it.
We see it more, but we don't recognize it. That's right. And so I'm just going to be very brief. Mental health includes our psychological, our emotional, and social well-being. And it's how we feel and how we act on a daily basis. And then, how we manage or handle our stress and make healthy choices from day to day. And so I'm going to just take you back on the story a little bit that, working with Jay and our aunties and uncles at the Fresno Center for the Living Well Center, and also with the Fresno County, when they come out to do stakeholders meetings and they're asking us about what is most needed in our community. It's been visualized and it's been, indicated that with the Fresno County's cultural competency plan, the Hmong has one of the lowest mental health services utilization at 6.7% compared to other races. So that's very, very little. And because of that, I think, and we feel that it's the way how Hmong population is viewing, the mental health lenses. And because we always are very, private about our personal life, we're scared about, having bad names, bad reputations, stigmatization, so you moi khó đánh bằng ai một thả thì theo ông đây rồi chơi là sai cũ trong này cũ tôi nên
So I don't want people to know my problem. So those are the things that I think our parents are viewing a lot more about how they feel about their mental well-being. And collectively, we feel that we've been working on mental health for some time. We really feel that collectively mental health is not viewed as a problem in our own community. Dr. oh yeah, I don't think it's a big problem. I'm not going to go seek mental health services. So and why? Why do we think like that? Because in the Hmong culture and our history, mental health has never been something that we really engage or look into. So I'm going to take you guys back historically, in the old days, like to 100 or 200 years ago, our grandparents, we were in China, right? And the things they have been gone through, oppression, suppression, and war after war. When you're living that kind of lifestyle, do you ever think about mental health? I don't think your parents, your grandparents ever think about mental health. All they're thinking about is survival mode. How am I going to keep my family safe? How am I going to protect my family, my children, right? That's constantly they're thinking on a daily basis. They're in the jungle, finding a place to hide and things like that. For those that, your grandparents that have made it to Laos, they've migrated to Laos, and they're just gradually getting used to the slash and burn living and lifestyle. Again, the war is coming back, right? The Vietnam War, the French War. So now they're on a fight to flight again. Just like, okay, how am I going to get my family out of this? How are we going to survive? How can I provide food and protect my family? So with this, they don't even have time to reflect. They don't even have time to really, grieve or mourn their loved ones who pass along the way when they're escaping. And there's shooting, and there's like bomb exploding everywhere. You don't have time for mental health, reflecting about your feelings. You're just on the go. And so with this, there's really no time for us to even think about, do we have mental health in our community? Do we really have a mental health problem? So for many, many decades, we are overly suppressed, overly, oppressed, and war after war. We don't really consider that we have a mental health issue. And so when there's that, the impact of this trauma over time, it manifests itself psychologically and emotionally into our brain, in our system, it's in our blood, and so we just can't think and just reflect on what we should be doing about our mental health. So I'm taking you from China to Laos, of all these traumas over time. Now we're fleeing from Laos to Thailand and to the US. I'm going to hand this over to Jay so she can finish off how that generational trauma is affecting us over time.
Thank you. Okay, so we're in Laos and we're now in Thailand now. So how many of you guys has been in the refugee camps? Raise your hand. I know there's a bunch of them. I am too. Okay, I am too. So in Thailand, we are pretty much in concentration camp, just like how the Japanese were, right? We were pretty much locked in a place where we can't get out. There's a lot of poverty that happens. We have a lot of clients in our program that tell us that they have to raise their kids' age so that they can get more food, because if you have your daughter and they're at 5 years old and not a 10-year-old, then you get less food because they eat less. So they increases the age in Thailand so that you can get more food. And so our parents has been in survivor mode from China to Laos and then again in Thailand, because it's all about trying to survive. And they were in poverty, right? We're talking about having less money, having less kind of figure out how to even survive in Thailand. So your parents, they don't have time to really think about empathy. A lot of times, in our in your brain when you were developing, and your parents are in your uterus, your left brain is all about logistics. It talks about like your planning, all of that. Everything in your right brain is all about creativity, empathy, emotions. Okay, your parents are in survival mode. They're functioning on the left brain, and they're not going to be able to give you that kind of support. But just like how Dr. Singh said, right? Our culture has been so functional in a way that is a more social support. So with the social support, your parents are really resilient. We talked about more resiliency. This is really resilience. We are actually really resilient. And a lot of our younger kids that your parents are actually that you were born in Thailand and then in Laos and migrated here, you are actually very resilient as well. So, moving to America, and I think Melanie also covered how, we go from China to Laos and then from Laos to Thailand. This is all cultural shock. You will have to adapt, we have to adapt from one culture to another, from one country to another. And here we are in America, and when our parents came into the US, this is another culture shock for them. They have to then again learn how to survive. How many of you guys lived in the environment where your parents are farmers? Raise your hand. Farmers, right? Okay. How many of your parents work 2 jobs? Okay. And both of your parents are just working days in, day out, trying to just survive so that what they can do for you guys? Education, right? A food on the table, and will give you that kind of support so that why? Your parents didn't have that luxury. They don't have that kind of luxury, right? And so when your parents are working, just trying to survive American poverty, trying to assimilate into the culture, trying to establish so that you can have a roof over your head, do they really functional on their right brain to give you the empathy, to give you that kind of love, to kind of give you, say, hey Melanie, how are you feeling today? How's school today? Do they have time for that? They don't, because they're in survival mode. And so, breaking the generation cycle really comes down to us as parents. I'm breaking the cycle. Melanie's breaking the cycle. That's because we now have the time to really think about, this is what our parents is actually going through. A lot of our patients at our clinic actually were diagnosed with more PTSD and major depressive disorder. That's for the older generations, right? And when they are diagnosed with depressions and PTSD, their emotions in terms of attachment and attunement is gone. They don't have time for that. I don't think they were ever driven to be able to give you that attunement, to be able to give you that kind of attachment, because it was never in their genetic coding to give you that, because for their generations, from generation to generation, they're in survival mode. So, for those that survived, those that are coming from Laos to Thailand to here in the US actually growing up, you guys are survivor as well. So a lot of our parents, they don't have it's not that they don't have the capacity for it, but I don't really think they understand how to really express empathy. So for those of you that are growing up with the older parents, if your parent doesn't express empathy to you and says, how's school today? How are you feeling today? It's not because they don't know how to, they don't want to do it. It's because, maybe of their trauma. A lot of the trauma gives them that, experience that they don't really know how to really express themselves as well. Okay? A lot of our younger generations now experience a lot of depressions. A lot of our younger kids that I see in our clinic has anxiety, has
Cultural
clash. They have loss of cultural identity. I have a lot of patients that I'm treating that says, I don't even know if I'm Hmong enough, but I can't be American enough either. And they're just kind of in limbo because they don't know who they are. And I use an example of how many of you guys watch PBS or Curious George, Daniel Tigers, right? I'm sure you guys all watch. So when you watch like Daniel Tigers, and I'll use Daniel Tigers because I think there's a lot of clips on Daniel Tigers. So you know when Daniel does something, right? And he does something bad or he does like something wrong, the dad always go back and says, Daniel, you know, how are you feeling? You know, this is how we should react to it. Our kids are getting that from TV, social media, from video, you know, from teachers, from school. And if they raised in a traditional Hmong household, their expectation of our Hmong parents is to say, Minai, are you okay? They don't get that, okay? And so, and what do they get? And if they raise in a traditional household, right? And so our minor is internalizing that as, oh, my parents are like emotional abusive to me. They don't care about me. Or how Melanie and I grew up and saying, okay? For us, older generation, we internalize that as, okay, then that means that I shouldn't behave the way I behave because that means it's not a good thing for me, right? And my parents is probably not going to be happy with that. So I need to change my behavior. If I say that to my kids, you know what they're going to tell me? You only care about you. You don't care about me. So I cannot use the same kind of discipline for my kids the way my parents use it on me. And so for those of you guys that are young and starting to, you know, have parents or starting to start your family, that's something that, you know, I want you guys to think about as well, okay? So that being said, you know, we see a lot of patients that are struggling through depression, but that doesn't mean that you guys are not resilient. You guys are resilient. And I think the idea of individualism really comes from the Western idea approach. How Dr. Singh was saying to put family in the nursing home because, you know, we don't have time to take care of our family. That was never an issue in the past because we always make sure that, you know, there's a Hmong saying that you know, right? And then, you know, that's always been the trend for our community. And we always been more like a social support. But in America, the individualists come from the Western approach. And so I want you guys to really think about, hey, you know, what can I do so that I can bring back the social engagement to my family? And so that, you know, we can continue to support our elders, continue to support our young ones, continue to educate them about mental health so that they seek help. A lot of our young folks doesn't seek mental health services because they fear that, you know, what if my mom says that I'm crazy and, you know, that's the...
Right. So at our Living Center, when we hear clients say, no, we don't use that word okay? No, we don't use the word okay? We call it because it's more positive and it's more, you know, helpful for them to feel better when they come seek services. So our clients, when they come, we will try to educate them to use positive words.
All right, that's pretty much it for ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, when you were giving the example about the parents and what they say, it reminds me when I grew up, you know, I was born here, but I was the first child born here, and I have a big family, and I remember thinking, like, how come my mom, my dad don't give me a hug or say they love me? Do they really love me? You know, and we grow in big families, right? So our parents don't give us that individual attention. And it was much later, probably in the last 15 years of their lives, and we've been here in America for 40 plus years, that they started saying they love me and they hug me. And you just answered my question as to why they didn't, because they've gone through so much trauma that they're not even thinking about that side, that support. And so I love that because I'm a parent myself, and I want to remind myself and maybe all the parents here that, you know, we need to break that thinking, right? Because we grew up that way. So somewhere in the back of our mind, that's still with us, but we have to be conscious and to be able to think and break that cycle and go past that. So that's awesome. So thank you so much, Jay Melanie. That was awesome. All right. Wow, we've had such a great morning so far. I love it. But I think my brain is also overflowing. So we need a mental break, a brain break, okay, from our specialist here, and that is Shua Lee. Shua is an associate professional clinical counselor with Clovis Unified School District with a Master of Science in Clinical Rehabilitation and Mental Health Counseling from Fresno State. So Shua, let's welcome you up here.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to engage with all of y'all. And so, actually the microphone's there. Oh, because I'm going to be using this. Yeah. So we're going to take a little bit of a brain break because emerging study shows that when we give our mind a little bit of a break, we can actually integrate all this information that you guys have all gotten a little bit better. And so
Let's transition. Yeah. Let's turn that one off. And connect here.
is this good? Oh, is this not off? Hello? No? Hello? No? Maybe let's move this. Yeah. Is that better? Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. Now, oh, I think it's actually this. Maybe she can go in here. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let me just start with giving you a little bit of a visual of what our nervous system looks like when we're in stress. And so this, if you take a look at this right here represents what regular nervous system looks like when we're going about our day and we're pretty calm and we can react pretty well to whatever is in front of us. How many of y'all have heard of the flight, fight, or freeze mode? Raise your hand. Okay, so this seems like it's typical knowledge. And so what you're going to see here is this is us. We're doing pretty well, but today we heard a lot of great and possibly activating information, right? And so when we get stressed, our body actually reacts in pretty predictable ways. And so it does one or two things. It either gets into this, what we call a fight or flight. And so it looks a little bit like this. Or if we get really, really, really stressed out and we can't handle it, we actually go into what we call freeze mode. And so we start to look like this. How many of you have experienced either one of those three responses before? Okay. And so what we're going to do during this brain break is we're going to use a superpower that we all have, and that is our breath. And so what you guys are going to do is, as I pull this ball out, we're all going to breathe in. Do it with me. And hold it. And as I squeeze it in, I want you to breathe out slowly. Do this 3 more times, okay? One more time. Okay, so go ahead and let your breath turn back to normal. And this is where I want to invite all of you to either close your eyes, or if you don't feel comfortable, you can just find a spot on the floor or right in front of you and just focus on that spot. And just breathe normally. See if you can follow the edges of your breath. And so as you breathe in, see if you can let your imagination follow that breath inside of you and out as it comes out. And now I'd like for you to bring your awareness or attention to your right ear, and just see if you can pay attention to any noise or sound that's coming from your right ear. Even pay attention to the way that the air touches the side of your head. Now we're going to switch our awareness to our left ear. Pay attention to any sounds or sensation that you feel. And bring your awareness now to your eyes. See if you can focus or allow your attention to just sink in and relax any of the muscles that you have behind your eyes. And allow your awareness now to flow down to your jawline. And see if you're clenching or tightening, and if you are, just see if you can relax your jawline. And let your awareness now flow down to your throat, down to your chest. I invite you to just open up your chest if you're tightening there. And allow your awareness to follow your right arm into going down your elbow to your hands and all 5 fingers. Switching your awareness back to your left hand, up your left elbow, up to your left shoulder, and down to your belly area. And this is a great time just to see if you're check in with your belly. See if you can let your belly relax here. Oftentimes we're tightening in this space without even realizing it. And so see if you can let your breath relax your belly. And now I invite you to bring your awareness down to your seat and where it meets the chair. And both down your thighs, your knees, and all the way down to your feet. And just notice what it feels like to let your attention rest where your feet is. Just become aware that your feet is being held up by the ground. Now I want you to take a couple deep breaths here, just as we did at the beginning. Become aware of the room again by gently wiggling your toes. Take your finger and meet your index, your middle finger, and your ring finger all to your thumb. Start just to wake yourself up from this break that we've had. When you're ready, I invite all of you to open your eyes. I heard a snore out there. I think we did a good job. All right, and so thank you all for participating with me in that little brain break. And thank you. And I hope to see all my young 8th graders or 9th graders in my session. We'll do some more activity in our session later.
That was awesome. I think that snore was from me. As I was sitting there, I was out. And so thank you. Thank you so much. That's a great mental break. So hopefully now our brain now has opened up, relaxed a little bit. We have a more, allowing us to be able to add more knowledge and capacity to our next speaker here. So coming up here next, I have Dr. Ishmael Sechu. She is the director of the Southeast Asian Student Success Center at Fresno State. She has a doctorate in educational leadership and has over 18 years in higher education experience. Let's give her a hand.
All right. I'm not used to microphones. I would like to just scream across the room. All right. Hold on. It is test. Okay, perfect. So everyone, thank you so much for being here today. When Dr. Solomon reached out to me about this health and wellness conference, I'm like, this is a great idea, you know, and I truly appreciate it. So let's get started. So today we'll be talking about educational cycles, the past and present. And before we can even talk about the present, we have to talk about the past. And I've seen that with the previous keynote speakers as well, because we need to address the past before we can even address the present. This is just me, so we can move forward. You all know who I am. The topics that we'll be talking about today is the historical background of our Hmong people, education of the past, community-led education, the impact of war, resettlement challenges and opportunities, Hmong education today, and Hmong in higher ed. So when we look at historical background, I know that Dr. Zhang talked about the migration of the Hmong folks, right? From the lower part of China down to the mountainous regions of Southeast Asia. So if you look at the arrows where, you know, the Hmong folks were traveling, we were, you know, migrating towards Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. So those upper regions of Laos. And so this new settlement would be, you know, in Southeast Asia. So similar to what Jay and Melanie spoke about was, you know, we moved a lot, you know, and so we have to adapt ourselves and our families to these areas. In the past, our traditional forms of education within the Hmong community were through oral traditions, right? So a lot of it was explained. I remember growing up and my mom and my dad would say, okay, this is how we do these things. You know, and I would be like, why? You know, and they're like, that's just how we do it. You know, that's how Hmong people do it. Right? That's how we do it, you know? And so a lot of these traditions will go through storytellings, folk tales, and communal gatherings. Practical skills will be taught through learn by doing, right? And I can talk a little bit more about that, but this is through agriculture, handicrafts, and traditional medicine. So, education of the past, and what we're going to do is examine the historical challenges, right? So in the past, given the location, the geographic location that the Hmong people lived in, we have limited access to a lot of things. So we lack the infrastructure, right? And we also, government policies, right? Depending on where we lived at the time, maybe southern China or the northern regions of Laos, you know, a lot of times we were like way in the mountains and where folks couldn't get to us, right? So we built ourselves and we built our own communities. For example, the word resilient, right, comes to mind to me when I was doing this PowerPoint, because I'm like, we are very resilient people. Prior to the 1950s, and the reason why I use that, and I felt like, you know, in America, a lot of Hmong history seemed like it started, you know, during the Secret War, right? There are more of our history prior to that as well. But I'm going to focus more from the Secret War to now. Prior to the 1950s, if you were part of affluent families, you were educated. You know, your parents had the money to pay, you know, for you to go to school, to get a formal education. A lot of the times, the folks, and I'm going to ask for participation because I'm an educator at heart. So when you're in a Hmong family, right, and if your parents, you know, put yourself in your parents' shoes back then, who would you send to school? If you had the money to send to school, would you send your son or would you send your daughter? Your son. Right? Why would you send your son? And they mentioned it too. Why would you send your son?
They expect the son to lead the family in the future?
Yes, so that's the culture, right? Where it's the son that will take care of the family, right? And so the majority of the men in the past that had the funds to be educated were educated because of that. Now, in the late 1950s, you know, America brought resources, and these are through voluntary aid such as IVS, right, which is the International Voluntary Services, And so they had funding to take to rural areas in Southeast Asia to support, and we were there, our people were there. So they were supported through that. And so you can see through the pictures, since the secret war in Laos, our women started getting educated, right? And what were they educated in? Who knows? Yes, nursing, medical, because they had to take care of those who were in the war, right? Who were hurt in the war. With the education of the past, we do have cultural barriers as well, and you all know this. I think this is pretty prevalent still, right? Where we have the differences, the cultural differences between the Hmong and the dominant culture, wherever we lived, right? We were technically in a more dominant land of certain cultures, right? And then with that, we do have familial obligations, right? So we, I know that we talked about nursing homes, right? We have to take care of our family. Those are familial obligations, right? And also, with the dominant cultures, because we fall into prejudices, regardless of where we were. When we were in China, right, we were oppressed, right? We were hunted. When we were in Southeast Asia, right, we were discriminated against as well. We also have language issues because we were living in places that didn't speak our language, right? So we had to either assimilate and learn the language, or at the same time, it would, hinder us, right, from communicating with the folks in the area. All right, so within our own family, we have community-led education. So we are folks who like to educate each other. So we educate each other within our community. So we have a collective learning where we involve like the entire community. So I'm not too sure, I know that with my family, my parents, they go to church as well, and that's their community as well. And so a lot of the learning comes through there. My dad is considered an elder in the community, so he teaches the younger folks, right? So we have those types of communities. I'm sure that you all have that within your family system. The elders and the community leaders, they play a huge role in sharing the knowledge. And sometimes I know that with our kids nowadays, because we do live independent lives, right? Your adult won't just sit down with you and say, okay, this is how we do this, right? When someone passes, right? These are the structures that we need to follow. There's nothing written in a book or no PowerPoint presentations or anything like that. Everything is by telling, by story, by educating that way. Practical apprenticeships, meaning teaching you how to farm, because Hmong were farmers. We practice slash and burn. And so a lot of it was done through, come here and I'll show you. And that's how my grandma and grandpa worked growing up. Instead of them saying, okay, you have to listen, you're doing this and this and this, because we are visual people, my grandma and grandpa would say, come here, stand right next to me, and I will show you how to do it. Growing up, I remember being, in elementary school, and my grandma wanted to teach me how to step on bell, right? And she would sit me right next to her, and she says, here's a needle, here's the fabric, and this is how you're gonna make the X's, And I'm like, okay, so I have to sit next to her to do it. And that's how they were taught. That's how our parents grew up, because they were taught that way. Knowledge transfer within family, and I know that a lot of you, and we talk about, generational cycles, right? A lot of you will learn the way your parents learned, because that's how they were taught, and now they taught you. And so a lot of, the oral traditions would come through storytelling, as I mentioned, folk tales, and that's how they talk about cultural values, historical events, and practical knowledge. And I know that for us, like I mentioned, we will always ask why. Why do we do this way? I always ask my parents that. And I know my mom gets really tired of saying, it gets to a point where my mom said, okay, so way back when your parents were from, your great-great-grandparents were from China, and I knew she made that up, just so that she can stop me from, asking why, because I guess she doesn't know why either, And so it was passed down. And the central role of families in the education system is transferred, as I mentioned, from one generation to the next. If I don't talk about the impact of war, I can't talk about how we end up here, in the United States. So with the secret war in Laos, it led to the displacement of many Hmong communities And a lot of it happened, to where we were relocated, not just to the United States, but we were located across the entire, earth. We have folks who landed in Laos, individuals who went to Australia, depending on where people were. This also disrupted access to education. So as you can tell, folks were getting educated at the time, right? And they disrupted that, There's also trauma from the war. And we talk about those generational cycles from war. I know that earlier we talked about the mental health, right? I'm glad that you all called it 这个是, because the word mental in Hmong translates to your mind. So with your mind, you can go crazy, right? And so it's good that we are reclaiming those words. But there's a silver lining to this, And the reason why I say that it is a silver lining is because there are increased services and also resources that were provided. And also, if that had not happened, we would not be here, in our new country and home. The resettlement challenges and opportunities when the Hmong arrived here in 1975, and I kind of want to throw a little shout out there. We will be here for 50 years next year, just so you all know. So it's going to be a huge celebration. But then we also encountered language barriers here. Cultural adjustment, adjusting to life here in the United States. And also accessing formal education, right? I remember my mom and my dad telling me that when they first got here in 1975, it was very difficult for them to find a job, because they could not speak the language, right? And so they took just odd jobs here and there just to make ends meet. And so with that, because they were here, we have opportunities. Now, not only the men in the family have access to education, the women does too. I hope you all can see the next slide. There you go. So this is just Hmong in education today. So as you can see the line here, and this is based on data from 2019, and that's the most recent data that they had. This is from the Pew Research Center. We have about 327,000 Hmong folks in the United States. Anything that's in the darker, teal color up there, green here, is those who received a high school or less degree. The next one is some colleges. The next one will be bachelor's degree and then post-grad degree. So when you look at all Hmong folks here in the United States, 40% receive high school or less. Some colleges is like 31%, bachelor's degree is 17%, and post-grad degree will be 6%, right? So when you all see this, what are your thoughts? Can someone share what your thoughts are when you see this?
School loans.
School loans, I hear you, yes.
Do I really want to do it for the next few years, put in all the hours for that extra money? Am I motivated by money to keep pursuing this?
Got it. So like funding, right, should I continue this because, do we have the funds, right? There's financial barriers, right? What else? I see that we have some college students in here too, if y'all can add.
My view is that, hooray, that there are people who've broken through and have made it to postgraduate.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That there are people that made it through, right? Given that we've only been, or we're either the first or the 1.5 second generation who has made it through and completed postgrad, right? We are inching.
I'm going to come back to survival mode because if we don't work, we can't make ends meet. So therefore, we're putting education behind. And for example, for like myself, I didn't go back to get my education until later in life. So that survival mode still is, impacting a lot of us.
Right, so survival mode, right? And so it's like how, if we don't work or if we don't, make that living, then we won't have time to even go to school. Why would we even go to school when we can't even take care of ourselves, right? So there's so many things, and so these are the data that we do have now today in education. So the next one is Hmong and higher education. So we want to talk about and enrollment trends. We have amazing faculty and staff on the Fresno State campus, and Dr. Shuo Zhang did a research with regard to Hmong folks, in higher ed in the United States. And so we have increased, our college enrollment for Hmong students. However, with what researchers have found is that, we've doubled from 11% to 23.7% between 2001 and 2010. However, half of those who attended college did not obtain a degree, right? And it could be for many factors, financial factors, survivable factors, right? Many factors. And the next one is the number of Hmong Americans who completed a degree, which is 14%, is lower than the national population of 28% of all other racial ethnic groups. And so I want you all to think about this, like what is happening? There are other things. There's so many things that we need to address, so many generation cycles that we need to unpack, right? How can we, when we go out there, and I use these data to inform my work daily on being the individual who is supporting the Southeast Asia Student Success Center, what can I do in my role to support, not just my community, but the entire community, right? And there's some challenges at the university level. So like what was mentioned, we have financial barriers, cultural adjustments, right? As well as navigating sometimes an unfamiliar system. So you're walking to a campus where your parents has never, gone to college. They wouldn't understand. I remember we had, a Hmong Dog Days where we have family come and visit us at Fresno State. And one of the parents said, I always drop my kid off right here by the Student Health and Counseling Center. And I thought this building was the campus. And she did an entire campus tour that day. She's like, now I know why my child is tired when they get home. Because they have to walk this entire campus, right? And it's those little things. So not only are we educating their children, we're educating them as well. And as children of our parents, please be very gracious and give your parents grace as well, because they are still navigating this country, right? So this is for our future aspirations. So this is what we should look at. Everyone who's in here, whoever you meet out there, right? The first one is we need to empower the next generation. Whatever role, whatever major, whatever position you're in right now, as you can see based on our presentations, we all connect, right? So how are we going to stand in our role, right, to empower the next generation? The second is how are we going to preserve our culture, because I have nieces and nephews who don't speak Hmong, they understand here and there, and they can say, oh, and that's it, right? That's it. That's like yes and Hmong, right? And the third one is fostering community development. I know that we have amazing places like the Fresno Center. I know we have the Hopeful Encounter, other community, organizations out there. But please foster that, And if you have it in your heart to say, you know what, I want to build something where I'm at, or for example, like this senior pastor to her said, we need a wellness program. Like let's foster that. Let's develop that for our people. All right. So with that, I don't think we have time for questions, but I hope I can see you all in our session. These are our students at Fresno State at our EPI graduation. The majority of them are Hmong students, and so I know that we all connect, and so let's work together to make sure that we do a great job with our students and our future generations. Thank you so much.
To see our educational journey, because as I mentioned, I was one of the first one born in my family, and I was the first one really being able to speak Hmong and English together. And so those challenges, and just to see where we are now in almost 50 years is amazing. And education has truly been a strong pillar in our community to really allow us to achieve and be where we are in terms of our physical, our mental journey. And here we are looking at being able to break these cycles. So I know many of you are probably, your stomach is grumbling a little bit. I promise you we have delicious food coming. So hang on tight, okay? We're almost there. Let's continue this educational journey. And I want to welcome to the stage here Lotta Yang. Lotta is a mother and a special education teacher with Fresno County Superintendent of School. She has a master's degree in special education and has 22 years of teaching experience. So Lada, let's welcome Lada to the stage here. Let's give her a hand.
Nervous, Okay, so this is actually my first time ever talking about special education to a bigger group. I usually do it in the home. So my job is I work with children from birth to 3 years old, and I do home visits. So I go into the home and I teach families how to play with their babies, because some of these babies that I get are premature babies, or they have a diagnosis, or some of them don't. And then also when I go into the home, I share strategies, I support them for their transition services, or I coach these families, and then also I share community resources with them. So with early intervention, how many of you have ever heard of early intervention services or special ed? So we have a few. So with my job, I usually say to the parents that they are the teacher, the first teacher in the home. And my job is to go in there and just to model what early intervention is all about. So during this age, from birth to 3 years old, it is very crucial to their healthy development and their learning. So their little brains are still developing, and it's like a sponge, and it just absorbs everything coming its way. Therefore, starting young, when you find out that your baby has a disability or a special need, starting them young gives them a better chance and opportunity to succeed. So this is how we can break that generational curse, is starting when they are babies. So I want you to think about growing up. How did you learn, and did your parents play with you? Because when I ask a lot of parents, how do you play with your baby? A lot of them don't know how to play with their babies or their toddlers. And when I tell them, oh no, you have to sit on the floor. And they're like, why? Because you have to be eye level with them so you can play with them. But a lot of these families, they don't know how to play with their babies. So I have to go in there and teach them. So usually I don't dress like this. I go in, I have my tennis shoes on, and I wear they're not like sweats, but they're comfortable clothes. And I'm always on the floor. So that's early intervention there. How many of you know or have somebody in your family that have a special need or has a disability? So what is considered a special need? It is a condition that causes physical or mental impairment that limits the individual from living life. The individual either has a diagnosis or they don't have a diagnosis. For example, I have babies that have seizures, but they are not diagnosed with anything. They're trying to figure out what's going on. So the individual either, these are some of the disabilities that you might hear is children with seizures or Down syndrome or being blind or deaf, or the big one, and there's a lot of research about it, and that's why it blew up, is autism. So you'll hear me say special needs or disability. The special needs would be more of focusing on learning impairment, and then disability is about what they were born with. So the importance of education for children with special needs there is a law that protects these little individuals or individuals with special needs. So this law is called Individuals Disability Education Act. So the acronyms, in special ed, we use a lot of acronyms. So for this law, we call it IDEA or IDEA. And this law is to protect people with special needs in an educational environment. So in this act, children with special needs have the right to access a free and appropriate public education, which is we call it FAPE. So free meaning the government pays for the education for the children with special needs, and if parents want more services, they would have to pay out of pocket, but that's what it means. Appropriate means that children who qualify gets an individualized education program, and again, the acronym is IEP, and it's catered to their unique needs. So every kid is different, and they have their own IEP. And then so we have public means providing through the public school system, and then there is an IEP team that oversees the child and then monitors the child. And then we have the education piece of it includes special education in it. And all other related services like speech services, counseling, transportation, and then the goal is for children with special needs to make progress in school and be prepared for the future. So the importance of education for these children with special needs it's to support their social emotional development, such as interacting with their peers, and then interacting with people outside of their family. And I know that COVID came and it's still around and all that, but in my line of work, I see a lot of babies born during the COVID time, and we call them COVID babies. They don't know how to socialize because they've been inside the home for so long, and they don't get to go to the park and play with other kids. They don't know how to socialize with new people that just come into the home. So these COVID babies have a lot of difficulty socializing. And then to support their mental health, such as empowering these little children to learn and to meet their developmental milestones. When I go into the home, I see a lot of families tell me like, "Oh, or they say stuff like that about their child. But it's education, helps support that mental health of their babies. And then it's to build relationships with others, teachers, specialists, people that they work with. And then it is to learn about new subjects like reading, writing, math, science, building interest, and then life skills. Learn how to use like public transportation or count money, or it's learning how to be independent. So I hear so many people say this about people with special needs. They would say people with special needs, they can't learn, or they need to be socially excluded and isolated from everyone. Or in some cultures, even in our Hmong culture, it is seen that special need. It's a curse, or the parents did something wrong. That's why they have a child with special needs. They're ashamed, and then they feel guilty for having a child with special needs. I go into the home, and I do have some Hmong families, very few, not a lot, but they do tell me like, disability, I don't want people to know that I have a baby that have this need. And not just the Hmong culture, like I go to other cultures as well, and there's some of them would say, can you meet me at the park? Or, can you park on the side of the road, like by my house, and then just walk to my house? Because they don't want the community or their neighbors or their relatives to know that they have a baby born with special needs. So that's really sad that I see a lot of that going on. A lot in our culture, especially like the elders, they don't understand that a disability can be genetics, that we can't control it. It happens, right? So especially like with autism. I have some families say, I don't know what's wrong with this child because and I have to explain to them what autism is, and we know a lot about autism because there's so much research about it. But they would ask me too, you know, and it's really sad when I tell them that there's no pill that can cure autism. And they get really sad about it because they're like, wait a minute, so there's nothing that I can do. But I always have to encourage the families that I'm here to help you, and there's resources out there because they do so much research. They have resources out there to help you. And just let me help you. If you're open to it, I can guide you and we can find resources in this community for you. And then I do hear people say this about special needs kids is they compare kids. So if they have a sibling, they would say, well, my 5-year-old never did that. And so I have to teach these families that every kid is different and they learn differently too. So some can learn faster than others, but that is still okay. We just need to know how to help them. So to break this perception or cycle of thinking, we need to learn more about the many disabilities around us. And when you learn more about them, you'll understand that there are resources to help them. For example, if we have a child that language, there are devices that helps them talk. And that's how they meet their needs, is using their devices. Or like, we see people wearing hearing aids, right? That's a device that helps them hear. Or walkers. You know, we see little babies, they have walkers and that helps them move around and be more mobile. So all of those resources, all of those equipments that these children have, they can use it in an education environment and also to help themselves be more independent. So there are resources in your community that are created specifically to help people with disability, especially children, such as early intervention, just like what I do, early intervention program. And then also with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, we have this program called All for Youth, and they service children from 0 all the way to 22. So they have parent support, and they have, in my field of work, a lot of my parents that I send over there, they're like, oh, I just need to connect with parents that are going through the same thing that I'm going through. So they find like support groups, they find play groups for the babies so they can meet other babies that have the same condition, and that's how they find help, and then also people to support them during this time. So to close it, I did bring some flyers and brochures, if you guys want to know more about early intervention, and then, if you need some guidance on how to refer somebody that has, or babies that have special needs, I can also help you with that as well too. So that's it for me.
This is definitely an area that our community is not very familiar with because, back in the days, I think our kids were not diagnosed. I remember growing up and just thinking like, I've never heard of autism, right? But in the last 10 years, it's like, somebody has autism, and almost every other family, or someone, one or more people that was diagnosed with some level of autism. So this is very informational for us to learn that as we continue to move forward to break these generational cycles, this is something that it's a new challenge that we are encountering, and we have to learn how to work with that. The physical challenge, the mental challenge, and how do we continue to build these new ways of working within our community, in our families, and individually as well. So we're getting there. So I know we've had a full morning of information from all these great speakers. Let's give all the speakers a hand again. One more time. That's so awesome. I want to bring back Dr. Song to give us a few words as we summarize and close out this morning. So, Dr. Song.
All right, hopefully you guys are still awake. So as you listen to these speeches, I'm hoping that you're breaking that cycle of blaming the older generations. If you thought we're going to blame the older generations because you were so good, you're going to start going to a new one. I want you to think about breaking generational cycles starts with you. And whatever happened in the past, but you're taking whatever is good and you keep it, and whatever is not, you break it and you make the change. And so, thank you again to our keynote speakers. I hope you would stay with us because they will go into more details in the sessions that we have at 1 o'clock. But how is it for you guys so far to hear all of these? What are coming to your minds right now? Any thoughts? Through our speakers? No thoughts?
Good information.
Good information? How about our young folks, high schools and college students? Anything new come to mind? Yeah.
I just think about how there's still a lot of resistance that's faced when trying to introduce these new concepts to the older generations in my family. Because everything that was spoken about, I'm lucky to be familiar with through education and stuff.
Yes. So many of our elders, because of what they experienced, they're still going. It's going to be hard for us to tell our grandparents and our parents to and they're using, what is it, their left brain or their right brain? Left brain when they're in survival mode. And so when we are teaching them to use their right brain, it's a little bit harder. And so that's why I would like it to you now. Let's see if you can use both of the side of your brain, and let's see if we can help the future generations, because it's going to start with you. We're not going to blame our past and say, you created us, and how dare you, you did horrible. They did the best they could through their survival mode. I know we are still waiting for Walan to give our lunch. So I'm going to have Shelly come up, but Shelly, maybe we'll go to the vendors. I want you guys... Yeah? So while we wait for our lunch, we do have a speaker that we also want to welcome and share some knowledge. And if our lunch is late, our vendors, I want you guys to go to our vendors in the education room. They have been gracious enough to come and share their knowledge and their information. There's scholarships in there. There's ways for you and your children. So I'm going to turn it back to Shelly.
Awesome. Our lunch is on its way. So yes, we will be having lunch. And it's fresh too, guys. But since we have a couple minutes, I would like to introduce Dr. Todd Shaw from the back. Come on up here. Dr. Shaw here. He is, first and foremost, he's my brother. So he's been very gracious from such a short notice from yesterday night at 8 o'clock. He was gracious to come join us this morning. Usually I don't get him because he's a director at San Joaquin Valley Rehab. So he's very, very busy. He has his own medical clinic here. He specializes in pain, medication, and rehabilitation. But in the last probably 5-7 years, he'll share a little bit with you, he has been really practicing some Eastern type medicine, acupressure, is that right? Acupressure, which is like acupuncture, but acupressure where you focus on specific points in your body to help release stress, tension. So since we have some time, I think this is a perfect opportunity to give him some time to speak a little bit about this type of holistic type of medicine. So there you go.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm not on call today. So I'm very casual. I'm also in internal medicine, geriatrics, as well as physical medicine and rehab, so I do Western medicine. That's pretty much it. Sometimes when you do something for so long, like 20 years, you get bored. And you ask yourself this question, it's an epiphany. It's like, hey, people could heal themselves, right? Given the right situation. So I explored into what we call manual therapy, and the type of manual therapy that I do is what we call OMT, or osteopathic manual therapy. A lot of the osteopath, you have the MDs and the DOs. The DOs actually studies that. The MDs, we don't. But sometimes we go back after 20 years of being bored at what we do, and you have to find a purpose of what you do, otherwise you quit, and that's what we lose a lot of our great people, whether it's in medicine or anywhere. After 20 years, you don't want to do it anymore because you lose hope, and you don't know why, because everything is, by the way, it's an art. So I just want to let you know. And the best way for me to introduce this to you is I do have a table out there. They usually put me by the corner because you know that's how I behave. I'm a bad guy. And the best way is that OMT is not something that will make you relax, although we do relax you. It's not. We basically are aiming to cure you of what you do. A lot of the stuff is based upon science is not there yet. Although the science is getting there, we believe. And I'll throw this out to you guys, and I'll stop. And the best way is just to teach you guys to just go out there and just do it. Okay, that's basically how you learn. Is in medical school, they always teach us that there are 600 muscles in the body. Here's my question to you after 20 years of practice. Is it really 600 muscles, or one muscle is in 600 compartments? They all communicate. And what is this communication? Pretend it's your house. Your house has an electrical system that does communicate with each other, right? And what happens when those electrical systems kink? And does these electrical systems store things in the body? We call inflammatory markers like interleukins and cytokines and so forth. So why does medicine work? Do they release these from these, what we call wires in houses, but in the body it's called myofascia? What is myofascia? Do they release in your bloodstream? So they release, inflammatory markers goes down, you feel better, you stretch more, you're stronger, and so forth. So what I want to do is, when you guys come out there, we'll do all that, and we'll use you guys as your own guinea pigs. Okay, so that's all I can say. And thanks for having me. Thank you.
Sandwiches.
Go get some lunch. Go eat.
kind of going through this, that we not only look collectively, how we can break some of those cycles that may not be as effective for us, but also I'm hoping that the sessions in the afternoon gave you perspective on how you can individually make up breaking some of your ineffective behaviors, your processing thoughts, the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you build your body strength. Did you ask the body strengthening group how they did?
We did. We heard from Jennifer. I don't know if anybody else was here that was in the yoga body strengthening.
Great. So I'm waiting for Dr. Singsai, and he's coming. Okay, so we can start. So I want to thank all of you. You will have broken at least one generational concern that we always have in our Hmong culture. Sometimes we joke about after people eat, they leave. And so you did not leave. You broke that generational concern that we have. So thank you so much for joining us today and staying through the whole process. Because these presenters are not paying them. They're here to support the community. So I'm glad that you're here to also support them. Because they are what we need to help us break those generational cycles. Any lasting thought on your processing or what you got from the day before I move on to the next topic? Anybody burning? Any lasting processing thought? You all ready to go home? Yes. Okay. So then I want to thank you, but I also want to thank our presenters. And I have heard people asking for my presenters' contact information. So if you guys are okay, I may give it to them because that shows me you guys did a marvelous job. And so I want to thank you. So I'm going to thank first, I'm going to thank Dr. Shamil. Say two. So when I started thinking about this event, it started small, but with a collective of multiple heads being together, we were able to come to where we are today. And I joke about how I'm flying the airplane as I'm building it, and today we flew the airplane, so I want to thank you guys all for that. But Dr. Shamil, her, is the one that kind of said, okay, we can get donations from here, we can, get this group to help, we can do that. And so the piece, she was very instrumental in that, and I want to thank you for that. And Shamil's going to help me to thank the presenters, because without you, this would not be possible. So first I want to thank Dr. Singsai Shaw. So Dr. Singsai, we are paying you with nuts for your time here. We appreciate your expertise and just your heart. I think all these presenters here have not only expertise, but their heart is in here. So we want to thank you. Any last thing you want to say to them?
You have been a great audience, and thank you for not sleeping in my presentation.
So this is from our Fresno State Gibson Market, farmers market, and it's put together by students. Many of the things are put together by volunteers from the church and from Fresno State students, so I want to recognize that. All right, the next person we want to recognize is going to be Jay Vang. I call her Yang, but it's so weird to be called Jay Vang and Melanie Vang from the Fresno Center for their presentation.
Y'all all survivor today, I gotta tell you that.
Just very glad you all got to experience your grandparents planting.
Don't forget to talk to your plants.
And talk to your plant, please.
Our other presenters, did Bao come out? Governor Bao, I recognize the other one. Are we sure? Oh, she is? Okay. So first we wanted to thank Amy and Belia
for the body strengthening. If you guys come up, we want to also present with you this. Oh, I have to tell you, I'm so excited because guess who she is? She is our proud Miss Hmong USA 2023. I know I was proud about Dr. Singh's side too, but when I heard she was coming, I'm like, yes. So thank you so much for being here. Any last thing?
Oh my goodness, it was such a wonderful experience, especially with the young people, and then also, you know, the parents. Seeing men in the class was amazing. So,
I'm so glad that I'm here technically for work today, but it doesn't even feel like work because I'm so passionate about, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I'm so passionate about being in my community, and this event was so amazing and beautiful, and to see things that we haven't seen represented in our community until today and being talked about, like for example, autism, like just seeing it talked about in our community, it's just like this is the first step, and it's just so, I'm so proud to be a part of my Hmong community, be a part of the event today, and I can't wait for the rest of the things we're gonna do for our community. And thank you so much for having us. It really left an impact on me. And if you guys ever need help, anyone, please reach out to me. Amy Moore on Facebook, just one page, reach out to me. I love being in the community and I want to, help out as much as I can. So I know my reign is done, but my work is going to continue.
Thank you, ladies. All right, I want to say my last but not last group. We started the planning with these guys who are still in their master's program as the students of mine, and now they have all graduated. I'm going to first recognize Shua Lee. Shua is a former student who she just completed. And you saw her work right in front of you. She works with the teenagers today, so I want to thank you for your work. Shua has been behind the brain work as well, so anytime I'm stuck, I'm like, Shua, what do you think about this? And so she generated my brain to, if you see that ball, it got bigger because of Shua. I want to say thank you to you.
No, not really.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next is also a special person of mine, Nathalie Vane. She is a former student. I've seen her in class, I've seen her grow, and I want to say thank you to you, Nathalie. She led the Little Kitty group.
I have a question. Do you still lecture? Okay, so when I saw you spoke up here today, I immediately went back to college and I was like, I miss your lectures, and when you speak, it just felt like a lecture again. I really enjoy it, and so
I don't know if that's bad or good.
it's good because I missed it, and I feel so privileged that I actually was in one of your classes because you no longer teach, so I feel so privileged to have experienced you as my teacher and then now working alongside you.
Alright, another person I want to acknowledge, and she worked with the elders today, is Bao Vu. And Bao has been instrumental in here as well. So my former students, and I tell them, I know I've been your professor, but if I said something you don't like, just tell me. And so I appreciate Bao working with our elders today. And the great thing is she can still speak Hmong very well. And for those of you, Freedom, I think you know Bao, so many of you know who Bao is. So Bao, we want to say thank you to you. Do you have anything to say?
Thank you so much. This has been such a blessing, and I believe like we're just starting to break ice. It's just so comforting to know so many people echoing the same thing. Like, I wish more of my family members are here because it's going to take every family, each family, to be present, to be willing to open their mind, their heart to a topic like this to push us forward. So thank you so much to everyone involved in putting this event together and being here today. think I'm leaving really empowered. I'm feeling really hopeful for the future because of the impact they had on all of us. So thank you.
Chanel, did I miss someone? Okay, this is a presenter that I forgot. You know, I haven't had much sleep. Lada! Yes. Did you go? So Lada's the one that spoke about special education with our kids. And I invited her specifically because we had, you know, a whole group of individuals kind of talking to more about adult health, adult education. And I wanted to bring Lada in because the breaking generational cycle starts young, starts right in the stomach. And so we also collectively as a Hmong culture sometimes see disabilities and inabilities with words such as minyodua, minyua, words that are not very pretty, words that prevents growth. And so I'm hoping that even if we start small with a smaller group, that we expand and improve the look of individuals in our community. So Lara is not here, but we will present the basket to her, so we want to thank her as well. So if we can get her hand in. So we do have 3 bulldog, 4 bulldog? Oh, 4 bulldog. Okay, 4 bulldog t-shirts I donate from admissions and recruitment, which they were there here today. So all of our vendors have left, but they did a wonderful job, and I hope that all of you got a chance to visit them. But Shelly, do you want to ask them a question, and whoever answers it can just get it based on what they learn? You're very creative. I want to leave it up to you.
I'll put me on the spot.
And then after that, we passed out the feedback. If you guys could give us feedback on how to improve, there are people talking to me, and I said, give me more money, we can do better. Give me feedback, we can do better. And so if this is something that you feel like we need more of, please give me feedback. This is a way for me to also reach out to get more money, more funds, more donations to support events such as this. So, how are you going to make people win those t-shirts? All right.
I'll do my best. I'm going to need the presenter's help too. So, question number 1. I'm like, I know what I'm going to ask, but I'm trying to say it in a way where it'll be fair to everybody. Can someone share something that they learned from Dr. Singh Sai's presentation on comparing our past to our present? He lists a number of comparison, right? I'll give you guys an example. The one that sticks in my mind is the photo of the village and the urban, the city. What's a comparison that he mentioned?
The food that like our older generation eats, like it made like natural and basically straight from the farm to table, versus us, we eat fast food and processed food.
Awesome! Yay! Come on up here and get a prize. Thank you. Someone learned something, Doctor.
Standard American diet.
All right, this is a trick question, but some of you guys should know the answer. In our mental health cycle, Melanie and Jay talked about the left and the right brain. Can one of you do, what is the left or what is the right? You can pick to answer one or the other. Our parents thought one way because they were using one side of the brain. The left is what? What? You can describe it. Right there in the back. Left side is survival mode. Is that correct? Yes, yes. Thank you. Come on up here and grab a prize. Last slide was survivor mode, and that's why they did not express a lot of emotional support, encouragement, because they were in survivor mode. And so it wasn't until probably in the States, many years later, where they started using their right side, where they became more emotional.
All right, give a big one. This is for 2 t-shirts.
Okay, 2 t-shirts. So are you gonna ask the question? Or am I asking the question? I can't think of a big question.
Okay.
I'll try to come up.
I want to say, can I just give one away?
Yeah.
And then we'll ask for one. I want to give one t-shirt away.
Okay.
I think there's one in here that I want to give a t-shirt
Okay.
to.
Why don't you go ahead?
Well, I don't know who the person is, but I'll just give it to you.
Okay.
All right.
So that
There you
means
go. Someone's gonna.
I want to give the t-shirt to you.
Oh. Yay. What was your thinking behind that? What was your thinking?
I think it was, when she was sitting there and I was watching, she was really attentive and paying attention. I'm like, yeah, she needs a t-shirt. I want to give her a t-shirt.
Is that because I'm your mom?
That could be it.
yes.
I hope she learned something though.
Okay. It's a size large. It fits most of you.
Okay. Why is it important to start working with your kids at a young age? Infant to like 3. Lana talked about it. What is their brain? What do they do? She gave an analogy of their brain.
Just say something. I'll give it to you because I want people to go home.
Their brain is like a sponge. Who says sponge? Sponge, okay. We'll hand it to the lady in the back.
All right. Thank you, Shelly. Okay, I can see some of you are like, come on, we gotta go home. We spent a whole Saturday with you already. So I want to thank all of you for coming and enjoy the rest of your day. We appreciate you being here. We have some apples in the kitchen. Feel free to grab one on your way out. So thank you so much. If you can turn in the feedback, and if I don't get a lot back, I will email that list of registrants. But other than that, thank you so much, and we hope to see you again in future events. Take care.